A few years ago, I covered the case of Nikki Beauregard, a 41-year-old woman who disappeared in the desert outside of Las Vegas on August 31st of 2019. On the day she disappeared, she was traveling with her boyfriend, Eric Covington, in a black truck that was pulling a trailer with 2 jet skis on it. Their plan that day was to spend the weekend on Lake Mead, hanging out with their friends.
But something very strange happened on their way to the lake that day.
The whole group they were traveling with decided to stop at Walmart to pick up food and drinks before going to the lake. At Walmart, Nikki was caught stealing and ran from a security officer. She got into Eric's truck, and her and Eric left. They stopped at a gas station, and then they drove out to Pobco Road, an isolated area in the desert a few miles away. And it's there, at Pobco Road, where Eric told several different versions of what happened to Nikki at that critical intersection in the desert. I actually spoke with Eric, and he told me that Nikki got a call from one of their friends telling them to return to a gas station near the Walmart. She refused, and instead, she told Eric to go, while she would wait at Pobco Road. Eric told Nikki's daughter 2 different versions of that same story. One version was that when he stopped at Pobco Road, she got out and ran away. The other version was that he stopped there and got out of the truck to hide drugs he had. And when he came back to the truck cab, she was gone, and he hadn't seen where she went. What is known to be true is that after Eric and Nikki left that gas station, Eric returned 22 minutes later without her. And she hasn't been seen since. In the aftermath of her disappearance, Red Rock Search and Rescue conducted multiple searches of the desert near and around that intersection, but they didn't find a thing. There wasn't a lot of information out there to report on, but after I released my first episode, several people reached out to me to tell me what actually happened that day. Those individuals asked that I not use their names in the podcast, mostly because of the crowd Nikki and Eric hung out with and their use of meth. The consistent story that I was told was that Eric and Nikki left the gas station together. None of the friend group saw Eric again until later that night at the lake. According to those individuals, Eric's behavior was erratic, and he had given several different versions of the last time he saw Nikki, all of which centered on Pobco Road. Now, when I talked to Eric, I asked him straight up if he had anything to do with Nikki's disappearance, and this is what he said.
I absolutely had nothing to do with Nikki's disappearance.
I asked him if he thought Nikki was still alive.
I don't believe that she's dead at this point.
He did have another story to tell me. One where Nikki was kidnapped by some of her friend group and then sold into human trafficking. And then somehow she ended up in China. Then he claimed to me that Nikki called him from a China phone number after she disappeared. Police say that he gave too many stories to count, but they had no evidence to make an arrest. In April of 2025, after I released my second episode on Nikki's case, I reached out to Eric to see if he wanted to comment on what I had been told, and he sent me this email message. Sorry, my dad just passed away. Things are kind of hard right now, and there isn't a day that goes by that I don't think of Nikki. I was hoping he would tell me more about that day, something I could give to the detectives. But then I got the news that would close that possibility forever. Whatever Eric knew about what happened that day is lost. Because as we all know, dead men tell no tales. And I will always believe that Eric knew more than he said, and he used a lot of deflection techniques to avoid responsibility. But maybe someday we'll have the answers to all the questions that Eric left behind.